Alright, good day guys. Welcome to the front-end web development course, and we are going to continue from where we stopped in our CSS class yesterday. So I'm going to create another folder in my CSS folder, and I'm going to call this week 2 class class 2. So here I'm going to create a file and I'm going to call it index.html. Generate the boilerplate. So here I'm going to title it CSS class 2. Then let us continue from where we stopped yesterday. So yesterday we did quite a lot of things. We touched on inline CSS, embedded CSS. We did some CSS selectors such as type or element selector, and ID selector and class selector. And I told you yesterday that today that I'll be introducing you and I'll be teaching you how we can use external CSS. And we're also going to move into other topics in CSS. So please, everything that we are doing here, or everything that we are going to do here today, is going to be a building block of yesterday's topic. So please, I urge you to follow the previous videos, listen, watch the previous videos, and practice. Please practice. It's very, very important. The HTML class, HTML 1, 2, 3, please go back to the video and watch the video and practice. Also the yesterday CSS class that we did, please practice, because as we go deeper into the class, we are just going to be building on our previous knowledge. So it's very, very important. Thank you. Let's proceed. Alright, so we are going to be converting, or we are going to convert all the things that we did yesterday using embedded CSS. We are going to convert it to external style sheet. So now, to create an external style sheet, external style sheet, you have to create a CSS file, just like the way we have HTML file. You have to create a CSS file as well. So we'll go back to our code, expand our environment, our Explorer. Then here we are going to create a CSS file inside of week 2 class 2, just like the way we have index.html. We are also going to create a CSS file as well. I don't think I need these two. So let's go straight in. So here I'm going to create a CSS file and I'm going to call it style.css. So it's just like a naming convention. Actually, it doesn't have to be style, it can be anything, but the most important thing is the .css. That's the extension that matters. So the .css, the same thing with index.html. The most important thing there is the .html. So we'll create a CSS file. So for external style sheet, so we want to create a special or a separate CSS file, and what we are going to do afterwards is to link that CSS file to our HTML document. So let's go back to, it says, so you create a CSS file, e.g. style.css, which we have done, and then you link the CSS file to the HTML file inside of the word head tag. So how do I link now? So now that I've created my CSS file, then I can come up here. I can now link my CSS file to my HTML document inside of the head tag. So I'm going to locate the head tag and I'm going to link. So how do I link? It is quite simple. To link your external CSS file to your HTML document is simple. I'm going to show you the shortcut, so you don't have to cram it. I'm just going to show you the shortcut to link your file. So you are just going to type link, L-I-N-K. So Mnet abbreviation is bringing out suggestions for you. It's bringing out a lot of suggestions for you, but the one that we want is what? Link :CSS. Can you see it? This is the one that we want. Link :CSS. So I'm going to enter, press enter. So it's going to bring out the syntax for linking a CSS file into your HTML document. Now please, the most important aspect of this syntax is that look at the href, which talks about the relationship. So this href is pointing to what? Style.css. It means that it's pointing to a relative location that is inside of what? Week 2 class 2. So this style.css is the same thing as this one here. So please, whenever you want to link your external CSS file into your HTML document, ensure that the value of this href attribute is the same as the value of the CSS file that you create. So the spellings must be the same. The spellings must be the same. Please, the spellings must be the same. So if this is style.css, this one will also be what? Style.css, because if it is something different, that means you are going to have what? Error. So now you can see how we have migrated, or we have made progress from moving from inline CSS to embedded CSS and now to external CSS. As beautiful as embedded CSS is, it also has its own downside, its own disadvantage, and I'm going to tell you that shortly. Alright, so let's go straight to the point. Okay, yeah, I remember I said I was going to tell you the downside of embedded CSS. As much as is better, but the downside is embedded CSS is only limited to one HTML document. Let's say for example you have Alright, let's say for example you have maybe 4 HTML documents. Maybe you have 4 HTML documents, or probably 4. Let's say you have like 5 pages, and that 5 pages maybe probably comprises of about CSS, about page, service page, and contact page, home page, and product page. All these things, they are pages, and they have their own HTML documents. And maybe you want to style, maybe the styling for a particular part of these 5 pages maybe you want to style them the same way. Actually, maybe you want to style these 5 pages the same way. The downside of embedded is that you have to style, whatever styling that you put for the first page, you have to copy it and paste it for the second page, third page, fourth page, and fifth page. But for external CSS, all you just have to do is write all your CSS code on your external CSS file. All you just have to do, then you link them to those several pages that you want your CSS code to reflect on. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So let me show you how we can transform our embedded code, to transfer it to external CSS. So here in I'm just going to copy all of this file. I'm going to copy it. So to copy file, for those that might not know how to copy the whole of a file, to copy all of this here, I press Control and I press Control button down, then the A key, then it will highlight everything here. Then I can just press Control and C pad, the C button, then it will copy it. Then I will come to this part. Let me just remove this so I can paste it here. So good. So now all of these embedded CSS that I have here, all this embedded CSS, so I'm just going to copy this embedded CSS. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy this part, so I'm going to cut it. So to cut is Control and X. I'm going to cut this by save. Then I paste it here in my external style sheet. So I'm just going to remove this one here. I'm going to remove this style sheet, and I'm also going to remove this one too as well. So I'm going to save. So this is what we have. So all I'm just going to do is just to link it here. I'm just going to say okay, link double : CSS, press enter. So I'm going to link that. So if I view that, my browser is going to give me the same thing. Can you see? It's going to give me the same thing. Beautiful. All right, let's proceed. All right, so that's that about external CSS. So but I don't need this actually, or let me just keep it. Should I? I don't need this actually, so let me just remove it. So let's start from the top. Let's start from, I don't need this too, so I'm just going to copy this. So let's start from the beginning. So CSS class 2. Now I want to introduce it to box model. Actually, I want to introduce it to box model because that's what we want to do today. I want to introduce it to box model. That is what I want us to do today. So let's proceed. Let's go to box model. But please, there's nothing, the difference between embedded CSS and external style sheet is that the CSS has its own separate file. So please notice how we migrated, for the inline CSS. When we want to write an inline CSS, we start with what? The style attribute. When we want to write an embedded CSS, we start with what? The style tag inside of the head tag in the HTML document. But if we want to write an external CSS, we don't use style attribute, neither do we use what style tag. All we just have to do is what, create a CSS style by calling it whatever .css, maybe style.css, that's a file. Then yours is to link that file to your HTML document. It's as simple as that. So please watch the video over and over again. So now let's look at box model. Let us look at box model. This is very important in CSS. You need to know this. If this is what we are going to do throughout today, then okay. I am okay. So let's look at box model. What exactly is box model? Now, the most important point to understand about CSS is this: everything is a box. The most important point to understand about CSS is this: everything is what? A box. More specifically, every element in a document generates a box. I repeat, every element in a document generates a box, and this box may be a block level box or it may be an inline level box. So let me show you that. So let's say, for example, we have an H1. Let's say we have an H1 and I say box model example, box model example, and what am I doing? Box model example, and let's do a paragraph. Let's do lorem, then let's do something like a link, or let's do like a link, and I say learn more, we save, then we view this on the browser. Now this is what we have, and if you look at our content, if you look at our definition or the explanation of box model, it says that every element in a document generates a box, which simply means that all the elements here, starting from the body tag down to all the elements that is inside of the body tag, they all generate what? A box. They all generate a box. It's very important. Please take note of that. So all, like I was saying, like all the HTML elements, starting from the body down to every of these HTML elements that we have here inside of the body tag generates a box. But you might be wondering, but I'm not seeing anything like a box here. Is it an imaginary box? Because I can't see anything like a box in this browser. Because according to what we have here, it says that every element in a document generates a box, and this box may be what? A line block, a line level box, or block level box. So, and of course I explained block and a line block, so it's not something I need to go deep into again. So you should know that by now. So please. So you might be wondering, where is the block? Where is the block? Is it an imaginary block, or is it that CSS is lying, or I don't know, or where is the lie coming from? Actually, there is a box, but it's just that you can't see it. But there's an extension that is being provided by Chrome Store that you can download, and that extension name is called what? Pesticide. It's called Pesticide. Pesticide. That's the name of the extension. So you just go to web.chromestore and download the extension called Pesticide in your browser, if you are using Chrome actually. So now with this, now I'm going to show you how if I click on this pesticide now, It's going to show me everything there. You can now see these boxes. Can you see? You can now see that all these elements, they are inside of a box. They are inside of a box, a rectangular box to be precise. So this one here, this H1 here is a box on its own. You can see that it is spanning through the entire available space of this browser. So this is a block level element. So also paragraph 2 is a block level element. Why this link here is an inline level, is an inline element actually, because it only takes up the width that is appropriate for its content. It doesn't cover the entire space that is available, and it is not blocking. It is inline. So you can see that even the inline generates what? A box. So we're able to get this using what? Pesticide. So everything that you have here is what? A box. So from our explanation, now you now believe that every element in a document generates a box. So this element, this box can be maybe a block level box, or it may be an inline level box. So the CSX box model is actually a concept used to describe the layout and the size of HTML element. So each element contains a box for its content. Each element contains a box for its content, padding, border, and margin. The boxes combine to determine an element's layout of content, as well as how adjacent elements appear along it. I repeat, the boxes combines to determine an element's layout of content, as well as how adjacent elements appear alongside. So the most important thing I actually want you to understand in this explanation is that every element in a document generates a box. So it can either be a blocks level box or an inline level box. And number 2 is that each element contains a box for its content. It contains a box for its what? Content. So if you look at this box here, it contains, can you see the box? It contains is every content has its own box, padding, margin, and what? Border. So now I'm going to explain what exactly is padding, what exactly is border, and what exactly is what? Margin. So let's say, for example, this is the diagram here. So this is the content. The content is in will I call it an orange color now? This is the content box. This is content box. This is the content box. And outside of the content box, you have what? A padding box. And this padding is the space around the content. Is the space around the content, then followed by this black box here, which is called border box. Can you see? Border what? Border box. Border box, this black is called the border box. Why this margin box, which is yellow in color, is the space outside of the border. Why padding is the space inside of the border around the content box. So here now it says that the boxes combines. That means the content box, the padding box, the border box, and the what? Margin box. They combine together to determine how elements layout determines an element's layout of content. So the combination of these boxes determines an element's layout of content, as well as how other elements, that means adjacent, other elements appear alongside it. So now I'm going to explain to you in details what exactly is the word border box, what exactly is padding, border, and what? Margin. Please take note, what exactly is padding, border and what they call it now, margin. So if you look at this, for example, where is it now? If you look at this, for example, all these boxes, all these lines that you have here, these lines that you have here, these rectangular lines that you have here around this content here, these rectangular lines, through the help of pesticide, this rectangular lines is actually a border. It's actually a border. So that is the imaginary line. It's actually a border. So it's like a boundary around the content. So border is like a boundary around the content. So I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to right click on this content, that's the H1, and I'm going to inspect. So please watch. So now look at what we have here. Very interesting. Now look at what we have here. See this dotted. Now this is the content here. Why is it showing me? Please hold on. Supposed to have. Alright, so good. So this is what we have here. Now I've highlighted on this what do you call it, this content H1. Now can you see it here? H1. Look at the display. The display is what? Block. That's the layout. The display is block and the font size is what? 2M. Then the margin block start, margin block end, margin the line, blah 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 blah. Don't worry, you understand all of this later. But now notice that if you observe, let us analyze this diagram. It's very simple. Just pay attention. Now this small content here, this 880 by 37.600, this is the content box. This is what the content box. So when I highlighted on this, you can, when I over on this, look at what happens here. Just look at what happens if I over on it. Can you see? So it's showing us that that's the content area. Now if you look at the padding, there's no padding at all. There's no padding at all. There's no padding. You can see something like a dash, a dash, a dash, a dash. It means that it has no padding value. It has no what? Padding value, because padding actually is the space around the content. Is the space that we create around the content that is within the border. Because this border here, this one actually is the tiny is this dashed line here. This rectangular dashed line. This rectangular dashed line. That is the border. So within the border, we have what? The padding and the content area. But right now, the padding is not there because there's no value for the padding. So we only have what? The content area. And also even the padding too, there's no what? Value for what? The padding. You can see dash, 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 and what? Dash. So let us over on the margin. So you can see that margin is the space outside of the border. Margin is the space outside of the border. And when I over on margin, just observe what you are going to see here. And observe what you are going to see here. So watch. Then I over on the margin, you can see that there's a space around the border of the content. Around the border of the content. That is called what? Margin. You can see there's a space around it. There's a space around it. Very simple. There's a space around it. So that is that. So now let me explain what padding, margin, and border simply means. So let me go to this note here. I'm just going to this side. Alright, so for CSS box model, now let's look at the definition of margin. So margin, it is the space outside of the border of an HTML element. So it is used to create space outside of the it is used to create space outside of the border, or am I going to put it, it is a space outside of the border of an HTML element, and it is used, yes, and it is used to move or shift an element box. It is used to shift or move an element box on any of the four direction, which is left, right, top, and bottom. So please take note of that. Why padding? Padding, it is the space within the border, the space within the border and around the content box. So we can say that it is used to enlarge. It is used to enlarge an element box and also create space between the content box and border of an element. So please take note of that. Why for border? For border, it is the boundary of the HTML element. The boundary of the HTML element. So that's the definition of margin, padding, and border. So margin, it is the space outside of the border of an HTML element. It is used to move or shift an element box on any of the four sides, left, right, bottom, and top. Then padding, it is the space within the border and around the content box. So it is used to enlarge an element box and also create space between the content and the border of an element. So why border? It is the boundary of the HTML element and is very, very important. So now I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about here. So first of all, let me just comment this one. So let me just show you the H1 as it is. So this is it here. Let me right click. So you can see this box here, the box model. Can you see this now? Now notice that there's no padding at all, and there's no padding value on all sides. So please take note, when we are talking about box, element box, we need to also talk about the direction of the box, because we have different sides. Should I call it directional or sides? Let me use sides. So it is used to move or shift an element box to any of the four sides. Let me use sides. So we can't talk about box without talking about the sides. So we have the top sides, we have the left side, we have the bottom sides, and we have the right side. So now the way it is, you can create a space. You can create a space outside of the border on the left side. You can create it on the top, or you can create it on all sides. The same thing too for what padding, and also the same thing too for what border. So now this is what we are going to do. This is what we are going to do. We are going to start with margin. Let us start with margin.